Entertainment Soldier here, and I'm back to talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 1, and my thoughts on this episode. We are back to Kurtzman Trek, unfortunately. Now, there are a lot of pluses about this episode. The CGI is amazing. The main story is okay. And we seem to have the Klingons back to normal. There are problems with the Klingons still, but not as bad as what we usually get with these new Klingons. So, those are the pluses. Now let's get on to the negatives. A new character who just feels so annoying. Acting problems as well. People not acting like the character they're supposed to be playing. Spock. Fucking hell. And little bit of problems with the story. So, yes. It's not great. And there was a couple of really woke scenes in this episode, which was just like, okay, we're back to Kurtzman Trek. I mean, they're not over the top woke scenes, but it was kind of like, really? We're really doing that? I get it's pride and all that, but really? So, listen, it's an okay episode. It's not great. It's not as bad as Discovery, but it's nowhere near as good as Picard, Season 3. And what am I going to give out of 10? I'll be generous. 5 out of 10. So 5 out of 10. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's okay. It's okay. A lot of improvement needs to happen, but I can live with this. So let's get into spoilers now. If you don't want to hear spoilers, leave in 3, 2, 1. So the episode starts off with Captain Pike talking to Anya, I think that's her name, and basically they're talking about the trial, about the fact she lied to get into Starfleet, the fact she lied about being enhanced, and Pike's trying to make sure she doesn't give up hope and just surrender to these bad Federation people who are trying to keep to the fucking rules. Now, what really pissed me off about this whole thing is Pike seems to not really understand why humans are very, very cautious when it comes to enhanced people. Again, it's like he doesn't remember the history of humanity when it comes to genetically enhanced people. So, I don't know, I kind of get really annoyed when Pike just eases this off. And this story was done a lot better with Bashir and when he came out as, enhanced. So, we're not finished with this story yet. We're going to get the trial soon, but again, I just wish Pike would kind of at least understand the Federation's kind of, side of this argument. I get it. I get he's annoyed and that he loves her, as a friend, and he doesn't want her to go to prison or get kicked out of Starfleet because of something that he sees as ridiculous. I get it. But I kind of think Pike needs to kind of understand the dangers of these enhanced kind of individuals. But anyway, it looks like Anya wants to make a deal with the Federation. The Federation have given her a way out, basically. They've said, listen, you quit Starfleet, this all goes away, and we'll just leave you to go do something else. Pike's like, you shouldn't give up. You should contact that lawyer who's the best lawyer in the world, apparently. And then she says she sent a message, but the lawyer hasn't replied. And so Pike says, I'm going to go get her for you to try to make her, represents you against the Federation. And so Pike decides to go on a little away mission that's going to last 2 days and leave Spock in charge of the Enterprise whilst it's in space dock getting repairs. And they're at space dock 1, so they're back at Earth. And Pike's going to take a shuttle and head off to go get this super lawyer. Okay. So, I thought the story was going to go with Pike trying to get this lawyer woman, but it turns out that's probably next week's episode. This week's episode is how does Spock handle being in command of a ship? Now, the guy playing Spock, he doesn't look bad, okay? He kind of, in a little bit of a way, looks like, normal Spock. He kind of does. I mean, he's 100 times fucking better than the guy they've got to play fucking Kirk. I mean, Jesus fucking hell. That is a miscast if I've ever seen one. But this guy just doesn't act like Spock. He never does. He's too emotional at times. And again, there's too many scenes where he just acts like a human being and not a fucking Romulan. Not Romulan, Vulcan. So they really need to fix that. So Pike tells Spock he's going to take command of the ship whilst he's away dealing with the lawyer thing. So Spock takes command. He goes, sees the doctor and tells the doctor, you know what, I'm kind of feeling emotional. I'm kind of feeling worried about being in command of a starship. And I'm kind of getting a bit confused with this because this would not be Spock in any way. Spock would get over it and do the job. I know they're so desperate to have this stupid fucking storyline with Spock trying to deal with fucking emotions because we need to have that now because everybody's so fucking damn emotional these days. But you're telling us this story is going straight into the original series. Why the fuck is Spock acting like such a moron? I mean, anyway, listen, it's just bad to me. Like, Spock has had to deal with his emotions. He has. In the originals, in the films, he's dealt with them. We got, his Pomfar episode. That's when you saw Spock at his worst. And that was a great episode. I just don't need to see this guy every 10 minutes fucking worried or fucking crying or fucking just being a moron. He just doesn't feel like Spock in any way. But anyway, I did forget one thing. He does mention to Pike that he needs a new chief engineer and a new head of security because Khan is still on an away mission. It looks like Khan has left Starfleet to go hunt the Gorn. So, oh yeah, she did that in the last episode of last season. Well, I haven't watched that in ages, so yeah, it tracks. Anyway, yeah, Spock's at the hospital, seeing the doctor, telling him about the emotional crap, and the doctor pretty much just hands him a Vulcan musical thing and tells him, keep playing this thing and your emotions should be under control. And then Chaplin walks in and Spock then acts like a little twat and walks out. And then Chapel then tells the doctor that she is going to apply to go somewhere for 2 months so that she can have a break from Spock, I'm guessing. And the doctor's like, am I going to have to replace you? And she's like, no, I'm still going to be here. I just need time on my own. Next scene is the crew of the Enterprise having to deal with a engineering crew who are on the Enterprise to fix up the ship and pretty much do what normally happens at space dock. Prepare the systems, upgrades and all that stuff. And we get this kind of stupid scene when the pilot kind of tells the engineer who's trying to fix her station, oh, I don't need, my station works for me, blah 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 blah, whatever. And then we get in a horror scene where she basically acts the same as well and gets worried about the communication has been taken offline, and it's like, you shouldn't really have to do that because we need to have access to our communications, whatever. But you are in space dock. Who is going to message you? Whatever. I'm sorry. It was kind of just a very annoying scene where you kind of just got the feeling it was just to have a bunch of blokes being told to piss off by a bunch of women. That's kind of what it felt like. I'm not trying to be horrible. I'm not trying to say that's what it was, but it kind of did kind of feel like that. Again, they're not being over the top here. They're not trying to kick you out of the Federation. Not trying to kick you out of your position. They're just trying to fix your computer and fix your, controls. That's all they're trying to do. So it just kind of felt like a kind of boring scene to get through. Anyway, Uhura then gets a message, and then she has to go tell Spark, who is playing music, because again he's dealing with his emotions again, that she's gotten a message from Khan and that they need to get to some planet that's on the border between the Federation and the Klingon Empire. And so Spock goes to the Admiral and asks for, well, he wants to take the Enterprise to the planet to kind of see Khan and see what she's on about, because she said there's a danger to the Federation that they need to be concerned about, and so that's why they need to go over, and that's why they need to take the Enterprise and head off to the planet. But the Admiral says no. He says it's too risky. We share the planet with the Klingons because it's a dilithium rich planet, and they do not want to risk starting another war with the Klingon Empire. Now I kind of want to stop here for a second, because in this entire episode so many people keep talking about the Klingon War. Now I know some people are going to say, well, they did go through that war, didn't they? And I'm just going to be like, yes, I get that. I get a lot of the characters went through the war. It would have been great for us to have seen the fucking war. Right, Discovery? You fucking arseholes. It's so stupid, because in this episode, they mentioned battles. They mentioned how they fought hard against the Klingons. It would have been great to fucking see that. But you did it in one season of Discovery. The biggest fucking war in Federation history, and you motherfuckers put it in one season. And it looks like the Federation didn't just get its ass kicked. It got fucking butt fucked by the fucking Klingons. Ugh. It's so fucking annoying. The amount of episodes that could have come out of that. The amount of battle scenes that could have came out of that. And I get it. Some people are going to say, well, it would have been Kurtzman Trek. I know. I'm just fucking hell. Can't get anything good with Star Trek these days. Except if it goes to another person. Come on, Terry. Take control. Come on. Anyway, back to the fucking episode. So the Admiral says no to Spock. So Spock goes back to the ship and pretty much then says, fuck it. Let's just steal the Enterprise and head off and go see Khan anyway. And this kind of just like, okay, I get it. I get it. You want to have an episode where Spock takes command of the ship and does something, crazy. Spock would never do this. Okay, he just wouldn't. Okay, Spock, I get it. He grew with Kirk. Okay, so when Spock started to do reckless stuff, it was mainly because Kirk was kind of pushing him in that direction. To have Spock do this on his own, it's just so out of bloody character, and it just doesn't fit him at all. I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense. Why would Spock not do as he's told? He is still a fucking Vulcan, and Kirk is not there. And I don't think Pike is that strong enough of a captain to push him in that direction. I'm sorry. So anyway, Spock decides to steal the Enterprise. He then tells the crew to try to make it look like the Enterprise is about to have a warp core breach. And so they start the plan up. They then show the Enterprise is about to have a warp core breach. But then some strange woman comes on the bridge and then starts talking about the fact that she's an engineer, teaches engineers and teaches people about warp core breaches, and she's pretty much figured out that this is a fake warp core breach and that she's just on the bridge to find out what's going on. and her name is Commander Pelia or whatever, and she's a, what is it, Lenite or something, and yeah, she's kind of figured out what Spark's doing, and Spark's kind of worried that she's going to rat them out, but it turns out she's just completely fine with them stealing the Enterprise and wants to help because she's bored. God, I know they're trying to move the story forward. I get it, but come on. Some random woman just comes on the Enterprise. She's a fucking smartass and she knows all this shit. I can understand that and I'm fine with that. But just to have her go along with Spock was ridiculous. I mean, why the fuck? I mean, I know he explains himself to her, but it just felt rushed. Like, I would have preferred it if she was a bit more challenging. Like, she would say, I'm not going to let you steal the Enterprise. This is wrong. And then Spock just says, listen, we're trying to do something to help the Federation. The Federation is at risk. And then she says, fine, I'll let you steal the Enterprise. Not just, well, you know what, I'm bored, let's steal the Enterprise. It just felt so stupid and messy at the same time. So, it turns out that the Federation believe the warp core breach is real, so they're released from space dock and they then walk away and steal the Enterprise. That's what happens. So they get to the planet, they find Khan, who's been drinking with Klingons, and by the way, the Klingons are back to their usual selves, which is good. Some overacting with some of the Klingons, mentioning too much of, I'm going to cut your, throat out and all that stuff. There's an art to playing Klingons, by the way. Like, they're not so in your face about killing you. There's always, like, they're playful people, they're, jolly people, all that stuff. It just kind of feel that they're just trying to stick with the whole, I'm going to cut your throat out, I'm going to, open up your gut. It's over the top a bit. And the Klingons seem to not want to explain, or the show doesn't want to explain, the whole transformance of the Klingons from Klingorks to normal looking Klingons. It seems like we are just avoiding that now. We're not going to talk about it. It's just over there. We're just going to leave it there. Bloody dog. Anyway, not my dog, by the way. It's a friend's dog. Anyway, yeah, so they're not going to explain it. They're just going to leave it there, I kind of think. Now, it might be a good thing, but I kind of think we're going to see those Klingons again. So they're going to somehow going to have to explain this. But anyway, so Khan has been drinking with the Klingons. She beats this one Klingon at the drinking game. Then a woman Klingon sits down, and it turns out all she's doing this for is to make a meeting with a certain Klingon to make an arrangement about weapons sales. So yeah, but then she finds the doctor on the planet who signals to her that they're ready to see her. She gets there, finds out Spark stole a ship, is surprised about it, and tells them that this planet is being run by two criminal gangs, one human, one Klingon, and both are trying to restart the war with the Federation and the Klingons because the war is very profitable. And so one of them, or both of them, have been buying Federation equipment, and it looks like they are going to try to set up the Federation so the Klingons will go to war with them. Now, what's kind of weird about this episode is it kind of takes the cast half of the fucking episode to realise what's happening. Because I realised the plan in about 2 seconds when she said Federation equipment is being bought by one side. So it's like, oh, so they're going to set up the Federation to start a war. And they've got a Federation ship somewhere ready to pounce on the Klingons. So again, when you kind of know where the story's kind of going, it kind of gets a bit boring. But anyway, so the plan is the Doctor... Oh, she then Khan mentions about the fact the planet hasn't got that many doctors or many medical equipment, so the Doctor and Chapel head off to go help the people of the planet, and that's what they're going to do. So Chapel and the Doctor head off to talk to the medical tent where the parents of the child Khan took to the planet, because that's why she's on the planet. These were the two parents of the kid who saw the Gorn from last season. She took the kid back to the parents, and that's the whole thing. And she found the parents, and then when the Doctor and Chapel get to the tent and we see the parents, what do you think we see? Two women, an Asian woman and a white woman, and it was just like, yeah, obviously. I mean, I was expecting a dad. Why was I expecting that? It's just Kurtzman Trek. Obviously, it's a lesbian couple. Oh shit! I'm sorry. Listen, I'm fine with it. It was just like, yeah. It was. I'm sorry. It's making me laugh. It was just like, yeah. It was obviously going to be that. Why was I thinking it was going to be a dad? But yeah. So the kid hugs Chapel and the Doctor, and so they both go helping all the patients and all that stuff. They then get taken by the Klingon gangsters, and they are forced to help the Klingons who are working on the secret Federation ship for their plan. So they've pretty much found the ship that these Klingon gangsters are going to use to start a war again. Next scene is Spock and Khan. Oh no, I forgot this. I forgot to mention the whole Khan tells Spock to tell Starfleet about the fact that these two gangs are going to try to start a war with the Klingons, and Spock just says, "No, I don't feel like calling the Admiral without a lot of evidence." It's like, hold on, the Admiral is trying to avoid a war with the Klingons. The Klingons and these other humans are working together, getting all these Federation shit, and might start a war soon with the Empire. Why are you not just ringing him? I get you don't want to have a awkward conversation with him, but shouldn't the mere fact be that the fact there could be a war be enough for the Admiral to say, okay, let's fucking sort this out, we're going to do what we can, we're going to contact the Klingons and tell them all this information that we've heard? I mean, it didn't make sense why you just didn't go tell the Admiral. He'd want to make sure there wasn't a war started, wouldn't he? Because apparently the Federation got its ass kicked. God, that's never going to sit well with me. Because if you see the original fucking war between the Klingons and the Klingons and the Federation, it was fought to a stalemate. That's how it worked. Like, the Klingons had their victories, but the Federation had theirs as well. It didn't feel like the war was like one-sided. With this, it really does feel one-sided and so stupid at the same time. Anyway, so next scene, Khan does a deal with the Klingons. The Klingons kind of threaten her because she hasn't got enough phasers, and then they start to wonder why they need to pay her for the weapons. But then Khan pulls out something that might be an explosive. She threatens the Klingons and says, I'm ready to basically die. Are you ready to die? And the Klingon just says, fine, I'll pay you for the fucking weapons, but I need more. And she says, fine. And then they do the deal. She goes back up to Spark, and then the shit about the Admiral happens. And, yeah. So they beam back onto the Enterprise. We then get a scene with Chapel and the Doctor healing all the Klingons who are working on the Federation ship. And then we find out more backstory about the Doctor. It turns out he was in the Klingon and was in the war with the Federation and the Klingons. He was on a special battle, or he was on a planet that had a special battle on it, where the Federation apparently got wiped out, but apparently they put up a massive fight with the Klingons. So that's why it's a special kind of battle for the Klingons and the Federation. The Klingons won, but it wasn't so easy. and even the doctor says the air was full of blood and all that stuff. So we find a little bit of backstory from the doctor, which I kind of thought was interesting. So Chapel and the doctor start talking with each other. They start mentioning the fact that this feels like the war, and is the doctor okay since the war, because is this bringing up feelings and emotions from what happened? And he's like, yes, it's hard to forget about that war, and how can you change and all that stuff. And then they mention about the fact that some of the burns the Klingons have are from photon torpedoes, Federation photon torpedoes, and not photon, whatever, from torpedoes from the Federation. And so the Doctor's plan is basically they're going to fight the Klingons and go somewhere where they can send a message to the Enterprise to tell them about the ship and tell them to destroy it. But how are they going to get through all those Klingons that are guarding them? Well, it turns out the Doctor has managed to mix up some sort of fucking juice or chemical or drug that turns Chapel and him into basically superheroes. And I was kind of through this entire scene, yeah, this does not belong in Star Trek. I'm sorry. If you want to have a kick-ass scene with the Doctor and Chapel kick the shit out of a bunch of Klingons, I'll be fine with that. Making them take a drug that turns them into super fighters, okay. And it turns out they've done this before, which kind of explains how they were able to survive the massacre of that battle. So yeah, they kick the shit out of all the Klingons. By the way, none of these Klingons seem to have phasers or bat lefts or even knives, some of them, or even Klingon disruptors. So kind of felt like they were giving them an easy time, a bit ridiculous. But yeah, they managed to kick the shit out of all the Klingons. They capture one Klingon, and the Doctor pretty much threatens to basically kill this Klingon if he doesn't tell him everything he wants to know about the ship. How many crew on board, where's the what's it called? The prefix signal code boost thing. I don't know what it's called, but they need to find that so the Doctor can send a signal to the Enterprise to destroy the ship. So the Klingon tells them, they knock him out, they get attacked by the other Klingons again. They find the transponder, the Doctor sends the signal, they then get chased again into a room where there's no exit, just out to the void basically. The ship then takes off, heads out of the planet where Khan pretty much tells the Enterprise about it, and it flies up. The Enterprise scans it, sees it's a Federation ship, and then a D7 battleship warps in, and it turns out this is the start of the plan to pretty much start the war with the Federation, to attack the D7 basically. So Spock, for some reason, hesitates because he figures out straight away that this is probably a fake ship and that this is probably the plan to start the war. So does Spock immediately fire torpedoes at this obvious fake Federation ship? No, he decides to just chase it for a little bit and lets it get into firing range of the Klingon battle cruiser. He's a very smart person, Spock. Fucking hell. By the way, they said... Never mind, I'm just not going to go into that. So, they do the stupid chase, and then when Spock kind of realises that Chapel and the Doctor are still on board, he hesitates again to destroy the fake Federation ship, even though if this ship does its job, it's going to start a war with the Federation, which is going to kill fucking millions of people. But Spock does the unlogical thing and waits and nearly kills so many people. It's so ridiculous. Spock wouldn't hesitate. He would have fired. He would have said the risk. Again, if you want to have that scene where somebody has to, you know, kind of argue for Chapel and the Doctor, you can have that scene. But It shouldn't be from Spock. It should be from the helmsman. It should be from Uhura. It should be somebody else. Not Spock. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention the whole scene about I would like the ship to go. I know I forgot to mention that because I'm just trying to forget it. Yeah, this is the scene where... This is the dumbest scene for me because Spock would just not entertain it. Just because the helmsman and Uhura tell him, oh, everybody has theirs, thing they say before the ship goes to warp. You know what real Spock would have said? Stop acting fucking childish and let's just go to warp. He wouldn't have just said, I would like the ship to go, like a fucking retard. It was such a dumb fucking scene. Sorry, I forgot about that scene. But I had to mention it. It was such a stupid fucking scene. Anyway, so Spock then just fires the torpedoes. It destroys the fake Federation ship before it attacks the D7, and they've stopped the Klingon gangsters' plan. And then the D7 signals... Oh no, sorry. But Chapel and the Doctor managed to find an EV suit. They jumped out of the airlock. They knew this would probably kill them in a minute, but it's the only way for them to survive without getting killed. And so they jump out of the ship. But this EV suit does have a signal boost thing on it, so they can send a signal to the Enterprise that they're still alive and to beam them out before they die. So Spock hears the signal from Uhura, they beam them aboard, and Spock now can stop feeling so sorry for himself that he might have killed the Doctor and Chapel. But he runs down to the transporter where Chapel is kind of still unconscious. He gives her resuscitation and all that stuff, and she wakes up and there's a little joke between them and whatever. And then the D7 signals the Enterprise. Spock explains himself and says, we destroyed our ship to stop it from attacking you. It was a fake Federation ship, but the Klingon captain kind of challenges him and says, this could be all your plan. You could have just realised you couldn't beat us and you just decided to cut your losses. But Spock then says, how about this? I challenge you to a drinking competition or whatever. And then the Klingon is curious and they have a drink of blood wine. And that apparently solves everything. The Klingons don't... fucking hell. Whatever. The Klingons have just decided, yeah, that's enough for them. Enough for them, they were nearly attacked by a Federation ship. But as long as the fucking Klingon can drink, we're all happy now. Fucking hell. We are back to Kurtzman Trek, definitely. And then Spock decides to send a message to the Admiral about what happened. And then when the Admiral starts speaking to Spock, Spock has to tell him to be a bit more quiet because he has a fucking hangover. Oh. And the Admiral just fine with it. He's just fine with it. He gives Spock a slap on the wrist and tells him he did a good job. Yes. And the final scene is the dumbest scene where the Admiral start talking to each other and says you let him off easy there, but then he kind of mentions, well, the Federation can't really deal with this right now because we can't fight a war on two fronts. And then they kind of look to the screen and it turns out it's the Gorn. There could be a war with the fucking Gorn. Yes, you remember that fucking species that Kirk didn't even recognise? But apparently the Federation, before Kirk took over the Enterprise, may have had to go to war with them. The species the Federation had no idea about in the original series. Oh, fuck. I might actually do it. I might actually have to put it down a grade. There are way too many mistakes. Yeah, I'm doing it. It's a 4 out of 10 now. I'm sorry, when you think about it more and more, it's just so fucking stupid. And that's the end of the episode with the whole cliffhanger about the Gorn. Oh, and Captain Pike doesn't come back in the episode. There you go. It's a 4 out of 10. there's just too many problems. We are back to Kurtzman Trek. It's not as bad as Discovery. It's not, but it is nowhere near as good as season 3 of Picard. And I'm gonna end it there. If you like this video, give it a like. If you dislike this video, give it a dislike. And if you like my content, do think of subscribing. And if you want to leave a comment, I'll try to get back to it. There was one final scene between Spock and Pelia, but I'm just not going to talk about it. It was just such a boring scene. Sorry. But she pretty much begs to become the engineer-in-chief, and I think Spock says yes. That's all that happens there. But anyway, that's it. Entertainment Soldier. Bye.